It started with a phone call. Not from him, not this time, but from my grandparents. Their voices, usually calm and steady, were heavy with something I couldn't name. That's when they told me my half-brother was gone. Cancer. Again. I sat in silence, not because I didn't care. I cared deeply. I always had. But I also knew this moment would come with a second shadow. One I'd been out running for years. My father would come looking for me, and when he did, I'd be ready. Not with a text, not with a letter, with a PowerPoint. Slide by slide, I was going to show him exactly what he'd done to me. Because this wasn't just about grief, this was about abandonment. Let's rewind. I was 7 when I lost my mom to leukemia. She was an artist. Even in the hospital, even while fighting for her life, she made time for me. She created these tiny collages with drawings and little notes. A butterfly wing here, a photograph there. Always remember, she'd write, that your dad and I are always here for you. My grandmother kept them all safe, wrapped them in memory, preserved them in a book like sacred scripture. That's what I had from her. Not enough, but something real. After she died, a counselor suggested I try to create my own art. So I did. A journal, 1 page a week, sometimes more when things got dark. It wasn't just therapy. It was a survival instinct. By the time I turned 9, my dad had already remarried. He barely waited 2 years. And the woman he brought into our lives, she didn't slide into the role of stepmother. She stormed in like a replacement. "I'm your mom now," she told me, not once, repeatedly. And my dad, he let her. It got worse when they had a son of their own, my half-brother. Suddenly, I was no longer the shadow of my mother. I was just forgotten. But I still loved my brother. I really did. Even when he got sick at 3. Even when every waking moment of my father's life revolved around keeping him alive. Even when I was told I needed to not be selfish because I was healthy. That was the mantra. You're healthy. You're strong. He might die. Don't be selfish. So I stopped asking, stopped crying, stopped talking. By the time I was 16, I had become a ghost in my own home. My dad was always working, or gone, or with my brother at the hospital. My stepmother barely acknowledged me. And my journal? It became my only witness. There are entries from that time that scare me now. Pages that talk about how I didn't feel like a person anymore, about how I would go days without speaking to anyone except my grandparents, about how my stepmother would lock her door and laugh with my brother while I sat on the staircase, listening through the wood, wishing someone would remember I existed. I moved out when I turned 18. No graduation party. No tearful goodbyes. Just silence. And I kept it that way. I went no contact. For years. Then my brother died. And with him, any barrier that had held my father back from finding me. He reached out through my grandparents. Said he wanted to talk. Said he missed me. Said he was ready to reconnect. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I pulled out my journals. 16 years of entries. 16 years of abandonment. 16 years of trying to make sense of why the man who was supposed to protect me decided to disappear instead. And then, I opened up PowerPoint. Slide 1 was a photo of my mom's collage, the one that said, "Remember that your dad and I are always here for you." Slide 2, my handwriting from when I was 8. "Dad is never home. I think he forgot me." Slide 3, my first panic attack at 11. The words jagged and messy. "I tried to talk to him today. He told me not now. I think I'm too loud." Slide after slide, year after year. Quotes from him. Things like, "Suck it up," and "He needs me more than you do," and "Why are you being so dramatic?" Interspersed with photos of my journal entries. Some of them, almost too dark to look at now. I didn't censor it. I didn't soften it. And on the final slide, I repeated my mother's message. "Remember that your dad and I are always here for you." Underneath it, I typed, "You failed. Go away." I hit send, and then silence until it wasn't. The messages started pouring in, from aunts, uncles, cousins. People who hadn't texted me in years suddenly had the energy to say I'd gone too far, that I was cruel, that he was gutted, that he was falling apart, that after everything, after losing a wife, losing a son, now losing a daughter, I should have shown mercy. Mercy? Where was that mercy when I was 15 and sitting alone on Christmas Eve because my father had forgotten to pick me up from school? Where was it when I was 13, watching from the staircase as my stepmother put her arm around my brother and called him my only angel? Where was the mercy when I needed someone to ask if I was okay? Let's be clear. I loved my brother. This isn't about him. He was a kind, sweet kid. But the fact that he was sick didn't make me any less deserving of love. And my father made a choice. Over and over and over again. He chose absence. He chose silence. He chose a version of fatherhood that excluded me entirely. And now he's sad? He should be. Because if he can't stomach the words I wrote in my journal as a teenager, imagine how it felt to live them. They say I could have just said no, that I didn't need to send a PowerPoint. But here's the thing. If I had just said no, he would have argued. He would have called. He would have sent letters or tried to explain how things weren't as bad as I remembered. He would have tried to guilt me into playing daughter again. But when you're faced with your own child's words written in desperation, confusion, and pain, there's nothing left to argue. That's why he broke. That's why I'm being called cruel. Because the truth, spoken clearly and without apology, is devastating. And it should be. So, am I the asshole? Was it too much? Was it unnecessarily cruel to show a father what his child wrote after he stopped showing up? Maybe. But it wasn't more cruel than the nights I spent waiting for a father who didn't come. It wasn't more cruel than the years of silence while he built a new family without me. It wasn't more cruel than being told to suck it up while drowning in the aftermath of losing my mom. What I sent wasn't an attack. It was a record, a testimony, a mirror. He just didn't like what he saw, and I don't feel sorry for that. He asked for a conversation. I gave him closure because I've had mine, and that PowerPoint, that wasn't revenge. That was my goodbye. Forever. So no, I'm not the asshole. I'm just the daughter who finally spoke up. And I'm not sorry. Not even a little. You've been listening to AITA Stories. This one's gonna sit with you, isn't it? There's something about the truth being handed back to the person who caused the wound that hits different. It's not about revenge. It's about being seen. If you've ever had to grieve someone who is still alive, a parent, a partner, a friend who walked away when you needed them most, you know how brutal that silence can be. But here's the thing. Sometimes healing doesn't look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like telling the truth, even if it burns the bridge completely. To the OP. You were a child when he gave up on you. You didn't owe him a performance just because he finally noticed the emptiness he created. To everyone listening, here's your reflection question. If someone asked you for forgiveness after years of silence, would you give it? Or would you open the journal? Let us know in the comments. And if this story stirred something in you, maybe share it. Someone out there might be waiting for permission to finally say, "You failed. Go away." This is AITA Stories, where the truth always finds the mic.